There's this old sort of vision of Christianity that comes out of the 19th century. It's rather still quaintly called the ecumenical movement, that need to put churches and denominations and theological traditions in conversation with one another. And the original impulse was to sort of form a giant Christian body that would go beyond labels and be the church unified. I think that the vision is changed, and I think it's a good reason for it to change. We don't really need to be all in the same organization. We don't all have to have the same pope. We don't all have to share the same understanding of the sacraments. But what we do need is we do need one another's stories. In order to be fully Christian, we need the Lutheran Passion to stand on conscience and conviction. Here I stand, I can do no other. We need the Anglican via media, the ability to create a community that is both Protestant and Catholic, that mediates division and diversity and creates a new kind of way of life around prayer. And that's sort of one of the tragedies of the idea of Anglicanism splitting today. It's a violation of its deepest sense of identity. We need Calvin. We need a Calvin for that nature mysticism. For the essential, Calvinists have a beautiful idea of order that I think is actually quite close to the heart of God. And not to do it in an authoritarian way, but instead to do it in a way that reflects the orderliness of God's own being. We need the Baptists, who remind us about the separation of church and state and the importance of an individual relationship with God. And we need the Pentecostals, because they tell us that the Holy Spirit is living and powerful and has to be encountered at all times and all places in our daily lives. And so we need all of those stories, those practices, and those experiences all to live on in dynamic, vital communities of faith that can tell their stories, that can share their practices, and do it in ways that are non-exclusionary but open and inviting to not only people joining them in their story and becoming a Lutheran, if that would be the story they would choose, or become a Methodist, if that would be the story they would choose, but simply to be around a grand storytelling table so that we all hear each other's tales along the way. It's sort of like Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, being a group of very ragged pilgrims all coming from very different places and sitting around a campfire at the end of a hard day's journey and saying, "Hey, can I tell you a story?" And the whole gathered community says, "Give it to us. We want to hear about the knight or the monk or the nun, the baker." And that's kind of how I envision the Christian church moving in the 21st century. A community of people sitting around campfires, sharing their stories after a really hard day on the road. And I think we've got a lot of hard days on roads coming ahead, but we got a lot of really good stories that can both make us laugh and draw us to a deeper sense of awe and wonder at the end of some of those days. So that's why we need each other.